The sharp clang of metal striking metal jolted John Parker from his Texas porch as midnight draped his 200-acre ranch in shadow, a piercing sound that cut through the stillness like a gunshot. His rifle leaping to his hands as the coffee mug slipped from his grip, shattering on the weathered boards with a crash that echoed into the cool March night, the shards glinting faintly under the moon's pale glow. He stood tall, his heart pounding like a war drum in his chest, the burn scar on his forearm throbbing as he squinted toward the northern pasture, the lake's silver surface shimmering faintly beyond the plains. A flicker of movement catching his eye, dark shapes darting near the fence line, their blades flashing in the lunar light. After yesterday's dust storm clash with Lang's cutters and Ethan's stand against Lilith's lies, John had hoped for a night of rest, a chance to mend the family's frayed bonds. But now the air hummed with danger, the echo of steel a whisper of Grayson's jailborn wrath, and he'd face it with the steel of his 54 years. He stormed across the yard to the barn, saddling Dusty with hands steady from decades of grit, the chestnut mare snorting nervously as he swung into the saddle, her ears twitching at the distant clatter, and he rode hard toward the pasture. Rifle raised high, the wildflowers along the plains swaying in the night breeze, their petals silvered by moonlight. His mind racing as he prepared to meet the blades that sought to carve his legacy apart. The air was cool and thick with the scent of earth and pine as he spurred Dusty across the open ground. The moon a half-crescent overhead, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the plains. The lake's edge a faint glimmer through the darkness, its calm surface mocking the tension coiling in his gut. He reined in near the northern fence, dismounting with a thud that stirred the dry grass, his boots crunching softly as he crept forward, the rifle steady, and the sight hit like a hammer blow. 5 figures in black gear, their faces masked, slashing at the barbed wire with machetes and cutters, the metal snapping with each strike. Sparks flaring briefly in the night, a 6th man standing back, his suit pristine under the moon's glow. Victor Lang, Grayson's lawyer, his silver hair unmistakable, a radio in hand as he barked orders. His voice a low hiss carried by the breeze. John's blood ran cold, suspicion hardening into certainty, his finger tightening on the trigger as he chambered round, the click faint but resolute, his breath steady despite the rage boiling in his chest. This was no petty vandalism. Lang had escalated, blades in the dark a direct strike from Grayson's cell. And John knew the ranch's survival hung on the edge of this night. He edged closer, rifle raised, the shadows of the wildflowers cloaking his approach. The old war wound flaring with a dull ache as he flanked the cutters, their blades ringing against the wire like a death knell, the moon's light glinting off the steel with each vicious swing. A twig snapped under his boot, the sound sharp in the stillness, and Lang's head whipped around, his eyes narrowing as he hissed into the radio, "He's here, move." The cutters spun, machetes gleaming, and John fired, a warning shot cracking over their heads, the echo rolling across the plains, freezing them mid-stride as he stepped into the open, towering over the fence line. His voice steel cutting through the night. "Drop the blades, now, or I drop you where you stand." The nearest cutter, a burly figure with a scarred mask, snarled and charged, machete raised high, its edge whistling through the air, but John sidestepped, years of grit honed into instinct, slamming the rifle, but into the man's gut with a thud that doubled him over. The blade clattering free as he gasped, collapsing into the dirt with a groan. Another lunged, wire cutters swinging like a club, but John ducked, the metal grazing his Stetson. And he drove his fist into the attacker's jaw, a crack of bones sounding as the man staggered back, clutching his face, blood seeping through his mask. "Last chance," John roared, swinging the rifle up, the barrel trained on Lang, who stood frozen, his smirk gone, the radio trembling his grip as the remaining 3 hesitated, their blades poised but wavering under the moon's cold stare. Lang's voice cut through, sharp and desperate. Stand down, he's bluffing. Finish it. The third cutter, a wiry figure, darted forward, machete slashing low, aiming for John's legs. But John leapt back, the blade slicing air, and fired again, the bullet burying into the dirt inches from the man's feet, sending him scrambling back with a yelp. The weapon slipping from his hands as fear overtook bravado. The fourth charged, a hulking shadow, swinging a heavy cutter, but John rolled, grass crunching under his shoulders, and sprang up, tackling the man into the fence, wires snapping as they hit, the cutter flying free, the thug's mask ripping to reveal wide, panicked eyes before John's elbow cracked his temple, dropping him limp into the dust. Lang shouted, "Enough! Fall back!" But John was on him, closing the gap in 3 strides, wrenching the radio free and slamming Lang against the sedan. The lawyer's suit crumpling as he gasped, the moon's light casting stark shadows across his pale face. "Who's pulling your strings?" John growled, pressing the rifle barrel to Lang's chest, the metal cold against his shirt, the lake a faint shimmer beyond the plains. "Grayson's done. Talk, or you're next." Lang's breath hitched, his voice ragged, defiance cracking. "Grayson, jail calls. Want you broken. Ranch gone. I'm just a voice. Dallas pays." His eyes darted to the ridge, fear flickering, and John's chest tightened, rage a furnace. The echo of blades a bitter memory as he hauled Lang back, the cutters groaning in the dirt, their fight shattered under the night sky. Headlights flared through the darkness. Frank's truck roaring up the pasture with a growl, mud and grass spraying from its tires, Mary Ellen's gray mare galloping beside, her braids swinging wildly, shotgun gripped tight, its barrel glinting in the moon's glow. Jake and Ethan piled out, boots pounding as they charged forward, Tom leaping from the bed with rope coiled in his hands, Sarah and Matt trailing. Faces fierce in the night's chill. "What's this?" Frank barked, pistol gleaming, eyeing the sprawl of thugs, the snapped wire dangling like broken veins. John spat dust, voice rough, shoving Lang forward. Lang's blades, Grayson's hit, midnight cut. Took him down, caught him red-handed. Mary Ellen swung down, boots thudding, her voice steady. "Caught him good. Blades don't carve us." "John." Ethan surged forward, grabbing a cutter, wrenching him up, voice raw. "You hit my dad's land?" John gripped his arm, pulling him back, rifle close, his touch firm but steadying. The lake shimmering below. "He's up. They're done," John said, tone steel over the breeze. "Eat don't die, ain't." "Jake, Tom, help. Hargrove's next." Jake tossed rope to Ethan, who nodded, his hands steady as he bound the burly cutter, the man's groans muffled, trust forging in the knots, Tom securing the wiry one as Frank kicked a machete clear, Mary Ellen covering with her shotgun. Her eyes sharp. Frank radioed Hargrove, voice crackling. "Dan, north pasture, 5 down, Lang caught, blades, Grayson's orders. Bring a cage now." The night deepened, the moon climbing higher, wildflowers swaying as Hargrove's patrol car screeched in, lights cutting the dark, deputies spilling out, cuffs glinting as they hauled the thugs upright, blades bagged, Lang cuffed last. His suit torn, his glare icy but silent. "What's the play, John?" Hargrove asked, badge shining, the breeze tugging his hat. John stood tall, rifle slung, voice steady. "Lang's Grayson's echo, blade from Dallas, jail cash." "Stopped him cold." Hargrove nodded, grim. "Lang's booked, conspiracy, assault. Grayson's cell's locked tighter now, stay sharp." Dawn broke gold. The lake calm, the crew gathered, coffee steaming, Ethan firm, the map marked with Lang's defeat. "Blades dull," Frank said, pistol gleaming. "But echoes linger. Watch him." John met Ethan's gaze. Voice steel. "You held, trust steel now. Keep it." Across the ridge, a light blinked, binoculars, then gone. He chambered around, the click loud, ready for the blade's next echo.